Welcome in, Chiefs Kingdom, to Chiefs Latest, your one-stop spot for everything Kansas City Chiefs in 15 minutes or less. It is your host, Calvin Silvers. Happy Tuesday, and man, it's been a crazy start to the week. Yesterday, we talked about Derek Nottie returning to Kansas City via a trade, and today is the deadline for all NFL teams to get down to that 53-man roster. I'm going to share my projections, and of course, there's some trade rumors swirling around. We're about to dive into it all, but before we do, you know the drill. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and make sure you turn on those notifications because we have daily, that's right, daily videos here at Chiefs Latest, Monday through Friday. You're not going to want to miss any of the news, rumors, or actions regarding the Kansas City Chiefs. So please hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications as it not only helps me in the channel, but it's going to help you stay up to date with everything Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I mentioned the Chiefs along with the entire NFL. They're on a strict deadline today. They're trying to get down to that 53-man roster. The Chiefs have until 3 p.m. Arrowhead time, and there's going to be some prizes. There's going to be, fans hurt when they see their favorite player get cut, but that is life in the NFL. I'm just going to quickly go down through some of the bigger position battles, or at least some positions where there might be some question marks, give my projections, and then I will quickly go into some surprises. But first off, we knew Patrick Mahomes and Gardner Minshew were going to be the two locks at quarterback, and that's fine. That's all you need. Chris Oladunkin will be good as the third string on the practice squad, and, God forbid an injury does happen, he'll be ready to go. He'll be called up as the Chiefs waived Bailey Zappi. We just knew that he wasn't going to be a part of any of this future quarterback room. But the running back room gets interesting because I see three locks for sure: Isaiah Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, and Brashard Smith. So that leaves Carson Steele and Elijah Mitchell as the odd men out. But we know that the Chiefs are looking to add a running back into that room. More specifically, someone that has good hands out of the backfield for third downs, can also have some pass protection skills to shield Mahomes. So we know that there could be four running backs that are going to be on this roster. Sticking with the offense, I think they do keep 7 wide receivers: Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Tyquan Thornton, Jalen Royals, and Nico Remigio all make the 53-man cut. And the thing is, with Remigio, not only does he have that special teams return ability, but he did look good as a receiver in Friday's preseason game. In Royals' knee injury, that might land him on IR. Of course, he'll have a return designation, but that's perfectly timed for Rice's potential suspension that could come around week 4. We're going to stick with the offense here and look at the tight end because you have Jared Wiley's knees issue, Jake Brenningstool's hamstring woes. I think that means cut for those two, but there is a way for Wiley to get back onto this, 53-man roster. But for sure, I think the three locks are Travis Kelce, Noah Gray, and Robert Tonyan. I think those three can hold it down. Let's go to the defense because we know that Derek Nottie's return does bolster the defensive line group, or at least the depth there. I don't know about necessarily the talent, but at least the depth. And I think that means 5 will make it. You have Nottie, Chris Jones, Norman Lott, who's dealing with an injury, Mike Pennell, and Jerry Tillery. So again, you do have some run-stopping depth there. I'm just not sure Nottie is a needle mover, but we'll get to that here in a second. 6 cornerbacks, I think, will make the 53-man roster as well. Trent McDuffie, Christian Fulton, Jalen Watson, Najee Johnson, Noel Williams, and Chris Wallace. I think that was 6 there, and Joshua Williams is likely headed out via a trade. But again, going back to the running back, I know they're looking more for someone that can maybe have good hands out of the backfield, but overall, 22nd in yards per game last season. They were 28th in yards per carry. And I mentioned, is Nottie really a needle mover? No, not really. If you look at last season, 17 games, 11 tackles, 221 snaps. That was only 20% of the time. So a trade for a pass-catching back, yes, that's going to elevate this offense on third down. 7 wide receivers, at least 6 who all have blazing speed. That is great to stretch the field. But then you bring in Nottie for some depth. You have, potential cornerback trade. That just shows that there are some defensive tweaks that Brett Beach and the Chiefs are doing for a unit that has been a cornerstone for this team the past 2 seasons. So we had our locks, of course, like Mahomes and Travis Kelce, but then we had some depth moves like Nottie. And then now we have potentially a running back trade that the Chiefs are looking at. So Brett Beach and the Chiefs, nothing's really set in stone, even though they got to get this done. They're still looking for that perfect mix to get, this squad, that spark that they need. But of course, with these cuts and projections, there's going to be some surprise cuts or there's going to be some surprise makes. It's a tightrope walk. I projected Jared Wiley out just a little bit ago, but you can't necessarily sleep on him because Kansas City does have a history of keeping 4 tight ends. And yes, Robert Tunyon's been dominant in that tight end 3 spot, but again, they do have a history of bringing 4 tight ends on. Jason Brownlee, that jump ball, red zone ability, it's hard to ignore, it's hard to pass on, but again, healthy Juju Smith-Schuster, Tyquan Thornton's can't break out with that speed and that connection with Mahomes keeps those two ahead of Jason Brownlee, even though he's not a bad wide receiver. And then you have undrafted rookie Essa Pole. I believe that's how you say that. Yes, Essa Pole. He has had a stellar camp. That has, Brett Beach sweating in a good way because he's going to be he's too good to risk on waivers. So that could spell trouble for people like CJ Hansen or Ethan Driscoll. But the biggest shocker, if this were to happen, could be Cooper McDonald, 6'3", 240-pound TCU undrafted free agent who's turned heads with multiple plays and a third-quarter sack in Friday's preseason game. His rise alongside Jeffrey Bassa, that might push, linebackers Cam Jones, Cole Christensen off the roster. But Jones could be a trade candidate, and then you have Jack Cochran's knee injury opening an IR stash spot. Malik Hearing, he's locked in that 5th DN spot, of course, with Felix Anudike-Uzomah out for the season on IR. Kevin Knowles, his special team ability, that could sneak him into a cornerback room spot as well. So those dark horse, risers like Pole, McDonald, Knowles, could steal some spots, could be some surprise. But veterans, newcomers, Tonyan, Thornton, those guys hold firm, I believe. But again, Hansen, Jones, those could be some tough roster cuts or surprising roster cuts that the Chiefs have to face. But of course, I'm talking about all these cuts. And Calvin, you mentioned trades here and there for a running back. Well, there's another trade that could happen that doesn't involve a running back, believe it or not. And we know that the Chiefs, the trade wheel just keeps spinning. They brought back Noddy, and they sent Sky Moore out last week to the 49ers. Well, now ESPN's Bill Barnwell, he's been floating a deal that sends offensive tackle Wanye Morris and a late-round pick to the Falcons for cornerback Clark Phillips. Morris, of course, a 2023 third-rounder with 15 starts and 31 appearances. He's been a swing tackle, but Kansas City, they might feel okay now dealing with Jalen Moore on the roster. That said, Jawan Taylor's injury history, the newness of Josh Simmons, and Jalen Moore into the system makes trading Morris a gamble, especially with Pole and Ethan Driscoll still huge projects. The Chiefs' secondary has been banged up. As we know, Christian Fulton was on the PUP list. Jalen Watson, Noah Williams were in concussion protocol. Nazi Johnson's nursing a shoulder issue. So, yeah, cornerback depth is tempting. I'm not going to deny that. But what does Clark Phillips bring besides maybe some decent coverage? He has a weak 43.6 PFF tackling grade last season. That doesn't vibe well with Spags. He doesn't have much patience with people that aren't physical or can't tackle. So again, that just makes this entire trade questionable. And with Knowles shining in the preseason, I'm not sold on sacrificing offensive line depth. Not yet, at least. Again, with 2 newcomers in your system. And the offensive line has been a sore spot in the Super Bowl losses. And you want to do all that for a marginal add to the quarterback room? Maybe. So trading Morris, I think, could leave the Chiefs thin at tackle. And again, the O-line depth has been an Achilles heel for the Chiefs in the postseason. And Phillips' tackling issues just don't guarantee a secondary fix at all. Yeah, he has decent coverage. But again, you have Knowles, whose special team value just is a better in-house option. You don't have to try to give anything away. You don't have to trade away a late-round pick. So I think the Morris for Phillips trade feels kind of like a reach, if I'm going to be honest. Well, I mentioned the Chiefs could be cutting some people, but that doesn't mean that the Chiefs can't pick up someone else's trash. That's right. With the roster cut down deadline looming, the Chiefs could pounce on some waiver wire potential just to at least bolster depth or to add to the practice squad. And I think three potential names kind of stick out. You have Bo Braid, Ty Chandler, and Nick Whiteside. Baltimore's Braid, a 2024 undrafted free agent from Maryland. He brings special teams experience, again, that's huge for Dave Tobe, and some versatility playing both deep and in the box. So he's perfect because we know that Spags loves to have some flexible secondary pieces. If you look at Chandler from Minnesota, multi-dimensional back, flashed 620 scrimmage yards 2 seasons ago. He could be the back the Chiefs are hunting for, especially after he was buried in the depth chart behind Aaron Jones and Cam Akers. And then Detroit's Whiteside, a long physical man corner. He turned some heads in the UFL and even in this preseason. He could add depth to a Chiefs secondary that, again, I talked about earlier, is just kind of hit by some naggy injuries. It's something that's good. You just don't know where it's going to go later on in the season. So these players could contribute right away. They could be developed on the practice squad. It just could address Kansas City needs for some secondary flexibility, some running back depth, or just some cornerback physicality. Braid's multi-role capability that aligns with Jaden Hicks, of course. It adds some depth behind Cook, Edwards, and Connor, especially with Dion Rush on IR. Chandler's receiving skills, it could be enough. He does have the hands to do it. We haven't seen it used as much, but it could be enough to spark the offense on third downs. That's going to complement Pacheco and Hunt. And Whiteside's physicality offers a practice squad stash with some upside, especially if Joshua Williams is traded. So Braid, Chandler, and Whiteside could be prime waiver targets to help, boost the Chiefs' depth, or at least get them on the practice squad and just make the team overall better. We'll see who the Chiefs rock with after 3 p.m. today. Let me know in the comments who you're expecting to be cut and who you're expecting to stay on the roster. I appreciate all the love and support from you guys. Thank you to all the new subscribers. You are listening to Cheifs Latest. I'm your host, Calvin Silvers, and until next time, have a good one.